Today I'm going to talk about the M.Zuiko 25mm F1.8 lens. Stick around to find out how it performs. Hi there, I'm Peter Forsgard, an Olympus visionary from Helsinki, Finland. And before we get into the M.Zuiko F1.8 lens, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit that bell so you get notified when there is a new video online. Remember, I post 2 videos a week and my channel is all about helping you to become a better photographer and all about Olympus gear. But let's dive in to the M.Zuiko 25mm F1.8 lens. It was about a week ago I made a video about standout lens and why everybody should have one. It's a very versatile and a very handy lens, and if you haven't seen that, please go and check that video after you watch the video about this lens. And Olympus has 2 25mm lenses. They have the Pro version, which has a f1.2 as a fastest aperture, and this one, as I said, is 1.8. Well, as I said, the focal length is 25mm, which means that the angle of view is around 47 degrees. And also the way it renders the perspective is just about the way the eye sees it. Of course, our eyes has a bit wider field of view, but the perspective is about the same. And this is actually pretty hard conditions to do these videos because the sun is all the time behind the clouds, and then the next second it's in there are no clouds in the next second. So if the exposure varies a bit, so sorry about that. One really great thing about standard lenses are that they are usually very fast. It's like this one. This is f1.8, and what that means is that you can have a lower ISO and a faster shutter speed on your images, and that means also better image quality in low light when you have a fast lens, because the faster the lens is, the more light it passes through to the sensor. So in that sense, one of these lenses is a must. And this is one of those lenses that I always recommend when people ask me what to get after the kit lens. Even though the kit lens is a really great lens to start doing photography, there will be a time where you need a faster lens. And the other 2 lenses that I always recommend are the 17mm f1.8 or the 45mm f1.8. And that all depends. And then of course this one. That all depends what you like to make images of. And the best way is to just check out from your image data that what is the lens that you use the most. It's really easy, for example, in Lightroom, just to check out what lenses you use the most. And of course, if there is something that you kind of lack of when you have the kit lens, there's some focal length that you really need, or you need usually it's not that, but usually you need a faster lens, and that's why it's really wise to check out what focal length you use the most and then get a prime lens, fast prime lens for that particular, and the sun is out again, particular focal length. So then you get the most out of your new lens. And another thing that usually people want, they want the shallower depth of field. And here you have an example of the 25mm f1.8 lens wide open, and compare it to the kit lens at 25 wide open also. There is a slight difference, as you can see. And as you can see, the out of focus area, which somebody might call bokeh, looks really nice to me. The specs of this lens are: the length is 42mm, diameter is 56mm, and the weight is only 136 grams. And the filter thread is 46mm. And what is great about the lens comes with the lens hood, because I think lens hoods are, as I said, every time I review a lens, I always say that the lens hood is really important. What it does, it blocks the light from hitting the front element, and if the light hits the front element, it will make the image quality worse. It can cause flares, and if you don't want them, then it's a bad thing. But of course, a flare sometimes can be a really nice effect on your image. So, but usually you want to have it on, and I'm glad that Olympus included it in the package when you buy this lens. That's a good thing. Thumbs up for that. The lens feels a little bit plasticky. The reason probably is because it's made out of plastic. That's probably why. What a dumb way to say plasticky. But yeah, it's made out of plastic. It's very well made. It's nothing wrong with that. Plastic is all right. But the problem with plastic, of course, it's not as durable as the Pro lens is. And remember, this lens is not weather sealed, dust proof or splash proof, so if it gets wet you might be in trouble. I have never used this in a very bad condition, so I have no experience on what happens if a bit moist comes onto the lens or a bit rain. But be careful if you use this in bad conditions. This lens was introduced over 5 years ago. Actually, it was January 2014 when this lens came out, so it's not a brand new lens. And I think what Olympus actually should do, they should upgrade these f1.8 lenses, or maybe make a f1.4 series of the so-called Holy Trinity lenses, the 17mm 25 and 45. That could be a small upgrade, so to make a Mark II lens of these, because these are very popular lenses, and it's good thing that Olympus has a cheaper version of the Holy Trinity. So because the Pro lenses are not for everybody, they're quite expensive, and most of us maybe don't need that, and it's a good thing that there is a more inexpensive version of those lenses. But a small upgrade would be great. I have used this lens for many different things, but mostly I've had it with me on my travels. And the simple reason is that it's quite small and quite fast, so it's also very good for those low light moments when I need a faster aperture in the dark conditions and a wider aperture. I hope you enjoyed the images. And there was one thing that I didn't mention about the travel photography with this lens. The small size has two advantages. The one that I already said, that it's easy to carry around, but it's also this combo like this. It doesn't scream expensive photo gear. Of course, if this combo would be black, it would be even easier, because when you know, carrying it around, and especially with the black hoodie, it doesn't stick out. So nobody is too interested in your camera gear when you're walking in the city at night. And it's time for the fun fact from Finland, which this time comes from Helsinki, of course. Most of my facts from Finland has been from Helsinki, because that's where I live. I'm on an island right in front of Helsinki, downtown Helsinki. The island is called Tar Island, and the name comes from the warehouses that used to be here in 1640s all the way up to, I think it was 1800s. Because tar was one of those big exporting goods from Finland to other parts of the world, and the warehouses were put on the island because there was a big hazard, or big big hazard for fires, and they didn't want, of course, to have them in the city, which was mainly wooden buildings, so they had the warehouses on an island. And in 1939 they built the bridge, or I don't know what you call it. It's not a bridge, but they, you know, fill the water, and then there is a passageway to the island. So nowadays you can walk in here, or actually drive a car right next to the island. There are parking spaces. It's a leisure island now. They have a restaurant here. Then there is a summer theater where they have outdoor plays, or plays outdoors. And then there is one really fun thing. There is a dog park. Okay, that's not the funny thing, but the dog park has a beach for the dogs, which is kind of funny. I never knew actually that they had beach for dogs, but here they do, and I think that's kind of funny. It's a very nice place nowadays. People, you know, from downtown, they come and jog around and, you know, walk around in the park and have picnics on the grass fields that they have here, and all of that. And it's a very, very nice small island in front of Helsinki. But let's get back to this lens. The closest focusing distance is 25 centimeters, so this is not a very good lens for close-ups. Your kit lens will do you better job if you want to do close-up. And here you can see the difference. This one is taken with a 25mm lens, and this is taken with the kit lens 42mm focal length. As you can see, you can get a lot closer with the kit lens. So do not get this lens for close-ups. This lens does not have a MF clutch, so if you want to use manual focus, you need to change it from the super control panel. But there is also another method to change to manual focus, which is a bit faster than using the super control panel. You can assign the FN2 button to change from manual focus, or from autofocus to manual focus and back, and that is really handy way. But of course, if you have the FN2 button assigned to something else that is more important to you, then the super control panel is the way. But I find the FN2 button sometimes a very good way of switching between autofocus and manual focus. It's worth a try and see if that fits into your way of shooting. A bit bad thing about the manual focusing with this lens is that the focus ring is quite loose. It's not very precise, so it's not that easy to make manual focusing. The autofocus on this lens is quite fast, but most likely it's not something that you want to use in action photography. It's not fast enough for really fast moving subjects. But for general street photography, for example, which this lens is really nice, it's certainly fast enough. The overall image quality is really good, and if you consider the price, which is around 350 in euros/US dollars, the image quality is very, very good, because the price I think is quite good, quite reasonable, and so it's a very good value for the money. When shooting wide open, the edges are a bit soft, but that's the way it's with every lens that there is on the market. It's always a bit soft in the edges, but if you stop down the lens a notch, then you will get rid of the softness in the edges. But about sharpness is usually, for me, it's of course, if I do client work, I need really sharp images, but when I do laser photography and photography for fun, it's more about the feeling that I have when I make those images. It's not about sharpness. For example, this series of images I took a few years ago, when probably you can see what I felt when I took these images. And as I said, sometimes photography is all about the mood. This lens does not have a stabilizer, but I don't think it's a problem, because Olympus bodies have a very good stabilizer in the sensors, the IBIS. And I don't think the prime lenses from Olympus need a stabilizer in the lens. And you might want to watch these two videos next. But hey, thanks for watching, and bye for now.